injuries and stuff, we still kind of talk about this team right now as if they're unbeatable. We're predicting that potentially they won't score 30 points, and we're not even sure that we can say that at this point because, like you said, that would be going against the grain to predict for them to not do that. Do you see? Obviously, I'm of the opinion that they're not going to go 17-0. I think
I'm not either.
every
Don't
team
worry.
you just drop a game or something like that. But when I'm looking at teams compared to maybe how I did the beginning of the year when I predicted the schedule, and I tend to try to be a little more pessimistic because I like to put my expectations low and then exceed them. Um, but now, I mean, it's hard to not have the highest of high expectations when every week any criticism or question you have just seems to be answered within the next game. And, so do you think any, are you worried about any specific teams coming up for the 49ers? I know they have a 3 game stretch of Seattle and the Eagles. Um, the Eagles obviously are an opponent that they probably feel confident coming into the game. They probably feel like, okay, none of these teams are the real deal. We are. So for you as a fan, when you're looking at the schedule ahead, do any teams scare the 49ers in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Philadelphia. I think the Seattle thing is kind of I think it's kind of subsided in terms of in week one, after they lose to the Rams, you start to say, okay, well, Seattle's not like that. Well, I mean, Seattle's pretty good too, you know? So
Yeah.
Seattle's always going to give the 49ers a tough challenge. So that's going to be interesting. The Ravens, you never know where they'll be in a certain game.
Yeah.
Even a few weeks from now, who knows if the Cincinnati Bengals are that team that we thought they would be. That's another one. And then you always have those weird games that just something weird happens, and I think that would be more of a shock than anything because this team seems to be able to take whatever teams are throwing at them right now. But this is the NFL. I don't think they're going to go 17-0. Does anyone necessarily scare me? I don't know if anybody scares me. I would say concerned with the Philadelphia Eagles because that's at the end of the year, and who knows what they'll look like. They still have the best offensive line in the game, and probably the best defensive line in the game right now, too. So those games concern you. But scared, I don't think so. I think there's a case to be made for every single game that the 49ers can come out and win. And I think that's really where you should be sitting, like with this. If you're predicting 17-0, you're probably setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. But the fact that we can say, hey, you can run the table if things break right, if everything goes right, is speaking to how good this team is. And I think that's good enough as opposed to just jumping out and saying, hey, they're going to go 17-0 and run the table.
I um I definitely agree. You can even see I was thinking about like Jacksonville, a lot of travel. They're like more of a rowdy team than a rambunctious team maybe
Jacksonville's a good one,
than
too.
predicted. But then it's interesting because I can make the case that okay, they could slip up, but then when I think just at how good they've been, they didn't overlook the Cardinals. They didn't over like they are coming into each game there seems to be no emotional letdown. I kind of heard that as a topic when people were discussing coming off the Dallas game because um, 49er play, different 49er players have expressed that that game is important to them. But I just don't see specifically going into the Browns game, but also facing maybe lesser opponents or, the Bengals. Okay, they're having a down year. I don't think the 49ers or Kyle Shanahan looks at it like that. I feel like they're going in kind of with this determination and kind of like we need to get that number 1 seed and the real games start like at the NFC Championship game. George Kittle on Pat McAfee kind of talked about that type of mindset within the locker room that they kind of felt like the offseason wasn't even offset. It was just like nose to the grindstone to the nose. I'll learn.
Close
I'll
enough, I
learn
think. Yeah,
different
that's a
little
good. Yeah,
sayings
no,
later.
I get it. I get what
Um,
you're saying.
but he was just saying that as a whole, the locker room and with the moves like bringing in Hargrave, that he feels like the front office, the coach, and the locker room all felt like they were, robbed of this and that it was their mission. They've heard the noise that they keep making it to the hill and not over the mountain, and that they, in their mind, they're just guns blazing to get back to where they feel like they should have been last year.
I think, and this is me just going off vibes because I like going off vibes more than anything and real information. I think that this team is so locked in that they look at not letting down, but they look at every game as a chance to improve. And there's something that
Mhm.
they messed up on every week, right? That they can fix. And they always look at every game as an opportunity to work on that and fix that and get as close to being perfect as possible. So what am I basing that on? Vibes. But I do believe that this is very